it was preventable. If he would have just done his job and allowed his prosecutors to follow the law, as simple as that, the individual, the suspect involved, would have been in custody and not on the street with the firearm and would not have killed those officers.
That deputy district attorney in Los Angeles is calling out his own boss, DA George Gascon, a felon who should have been behind bars, slaughtered 2 police officers in an ambush. Police then killed that man in a shootout. The cop killer had been free on a gun charge because of Gascon's lenient policies. And instead of the 3 years in prison prosecutors had wanted, he was out. The shooter, a career criminal who had served 2 prison stints and had been barred from carrying a gun since 2011. On Monday, the day before the shootings, his girlfriend reported him for assault, but he was not arrested. Gascon's office is defending the lenient treatment again, saying in a statement, the sentence he received in the firearm case was consistent with the case resolutions for this case, this type of offense, given his criminal history and the nature of the offense. At the time the court sentenced him, he did not have a documented history of violence. Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor. It's beyond sad those cops had to lose their lives because this liberal DA won't do his job the way we know he ought to do it. Lock up the criminals and protect the citizens.
I love it. It says he didn't have a history of violence, burglary, robbery, member of a gang. He beat the girlfriend, then he stabbed his wife, which is why the cops were called. But this man, he was on probation. He was in possession of guns and methamphetamines, by the way, which should have locked him up for 3 years. Instead, George Gascon and his staff decided to just go lenient on him and gave him 2 years probation. This murder of these 2 policemen should never have happened. These officers were responding to help the wife who was stabbed in this case. But when you look at a DA, your role is to assume justice for that community and to ensure public safety, Harris. And George Gascon has repeatedly failed the people in the community, and certainly these officers and their families, Paredes and Santana, these 2 officers, officers of young children. Yeah. It was awful what happened there. It should never happen again. But Harris, as we sit here, it's happening in New York, New Orleans, Chicago, L.A., San Francisco just booted their DA. We cannot go lenient or look the other way when people are being brutalized. We see it on the streets here in New York. These DAs do it every day in the courtroom. It can't go on, or we're going to have an uncivil, horrible place to live.
Well, we're inching toward that anyway. Yeah. I mean, George Soros' money behind, dozens of these types of individuals with their politics in the legal system. George Gascon, he's inching his way closer to the petition names meeting their threshold at this point, right?
Almost 600,000.
Almost 600. They got to get there, and they're above 536,000
today. But it's the highest
today.
it's ever been. So we'll see what happens with him.
In a celebration of Pride Month, President Biden signed an executive order to fight Republican legislation on gender and sexuality when it comes to very young children. And he even took the time to go after Republicans.
I don't have to tell you about the ultra-MAGA agenda attacking families and our freedoms. 300 discriminatory bills introduced in states across this country. The mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters of LGBTQ plus people, that they have to reach out, embrace, and love their blood, allow them to be themselves.
The New York Post editorial board had this response. Absolutely, gay and trans people deserve respect and inclusion. But that does not mean pumping preteens full of chemicals at the drop of a hat, especially given that many are far too young to be sure they actually want to transition permanently. And as parents, that's kind of the point, right? Making those big lifetime decisions so early.
Yeah.
Why is this a thing right now?
Well, there's two questions I have when I watch this. And I watched this entire event the other day. First of all, what is the political strategy, Harris, of this agenda, of pushing this in this way? Are we going to win any Hispanic voters, independent voters, African-American voters who've abandoned the president over this policy? Is this going to bring them in? We just saw the Democrats take a beating politically because they tried to separate parents from their child's instruction in the classroom. Now we see the president, for some ungodly reason, being advised to separate a child and their parent from deeply held medical decisions that will affect the rest of their lives. And this is the point. Gender reassignment surgery and hormone blockers are not fashion trends. And you don't pop them or give them to kids as a tryout. And parents need to be involved, not the federal government. That's what I resented most.
Of why it was going now, and you answered that and ask an even better question: what is the motive here? Well, if it's to push an agenda, the president isn't the only one who seems to be doing that. This week's Michigan's Democratic Attorney General reportedly said, here's the quote, "Drag queens make everything better, and that there should be a drag queen for every school." Those comments are there, and it's a massive backlash over so-called family-friendly drag events for kids across the country that's coming as well. Republican lawmakers in Texas and Florida are now introducing bills banning minors at drag shows. We've shown some of those in focus, and it's hard to see how what's going on in the room is not seen as sexualized. And why would that be okay for very young children?
Well, I don't know what politicians on the left or the right are getting involved in what theatrical presentations should be sanctioned and supported, advanced by the state over the objections of parents. That's absurd. This is not the government's role. When Joe Biden the other day, he said this at the event, Harris. He said, "Just be you. You are loved." And I thought, you're loved by your parents and your family and your community, not the federal government.
Yeah, the government doesn't love you.
This is absurd. No, and I just don't like the idea of state-sanctioned entertainment. What next? Are we going to have cabaret for all kids, ballet for all kids, Broadway for all kids? This rubs me the wrong way as a parent. And look, when you're talking about taking a child to a drag show or a strip show or anything else, that's on the parent, not the kid. And I think we do have to look at that as a society and say, is this appropriate for the child's welfare and well-being?
Hunter Biden's laptop, a seemingly endless pit of trouble for the White House. The Washington Examiner has obtained more text messages from that abandoned laptop.
More?
And this time on the topic of guns. The president's own son losing it after he found out sister-in-law turned girlfriend, Hallie Biden, had thrown his gun in a dumpster in 2018. In exchange, Hunter accuses her of trying to make his life unbearable. Another set of messages claim members of the Biden family at the time owned a number of guns. Hunter says there are 5 guns in Dad's house. All of this is President Biden is now pushing for stricter gun control laws. Oh, every time Biden moves forward, cue the Hunter.
Right. It's always the roadblock on every policy because personally, the president has fallen down. Again, we have here a man who's a drug addict, a degenerate. He's running around with his deceased brother's widow. He's a train wreck of a person. Why does he have guns at all? And Joe Biden's trying to stop other people from having guns. His first focus, again, we're kind of tying this all together. Parents, families have a responsibility to care for the children, no matter their ages, in their care. This is a dereliction of duty on the part of the president as a parent, not as a president, as a parent. And the fact that this went on, and worse, Harris, we learn he advised the president, took political cues from Joe Biden. Hunter says he regarded me as a god, took my opinion and made it policy. That's really disturbing. I'm waiting for Will Smith to be the outreach director for the White House.
Whoa. Wow. Raymond, fired
Don't
up.
tell Will.
Okay. Well, I don't think anybody will tell Will.
Okay.
I think he's doing some like internal meditation work.
Yeah,
is
he's
what I
out
read.
doing some very
which is good.
Things.
I'm in favor of peace.
Look, no violence.
All right, let's move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.